Assalamualaikum everyone and welcome back to my channel Usman Code, and this is weather application in Angular 17, and this is going to be our third video of this series. For the whole playlist I will share that link in the description to have a look into the previous videos. Till now, as soon as we click on search, we have a API call sending in the background and we are getting clouds, and overall it's overcast clouds. And if you go to the console, you can see the detail of that API call, and in the network you can see an API call has been made. This is the payload header and this is the response coming back from the API, and we pick few values from that response, and which is from the weather object, and we are just showing the main and the description of that weather object. So if we go to the code side, we can see that this was the service we built in last video, and it's just calling an endpoint, and all the required parameters and values are already embedded in that URL. So we will be tweaking that method a bit, that get method today, and we will try to customize that function in a way that is compatible with our UI, which is this one, and we can provide the city name in that search field, and as soon as we click on search for that particular city, we should get the weather details. For that one, I will jump back to the Visual Studio Code, and here I will start customizing my get method. So what's the agenda? So agenda is we want to incorporate search within that endpoint, and basically in that method we want to enable the environments. Why? Because it's not a good practice to embed any credential here directly. That should be coming from a separate secrets file or environment file, and that could, because that could vary from environment to environment. Let's say if you are in development mode or you are in production, that should not be same in both the cases. And we will be passing few parameters to get method as well. First thing first, we want a query here, and that will be of type string, and inside that get method, first thing we should separate out that URL from that get call. For that one we will be using let violet. I will explain in a moment. All right, so I will be picking the whole URL from here, and will be using here, and will be using string interpolation, so we don't need that length that long anymore. And yeah, so for the query, if there is a query, which should be, so for that one we need to check if there is anything in that query. We need to append some values in that URL, and that's why I kept that URL with let. So for that one I will be updating URL to URL, and again the string interpolation, dollar sign, curly braces, and along with that we can use and operator, and q is equal to will be the query. So that will be the structure of the new URL if there is a query inside that URL. And yeah, and we can pass that URL here now. All right. So with that change, we have enabled that get method to accept a query, and based on that query, make a request to that endpoint. All right, let's test this one. I will jump back to here, and we have an error that is obvious because now it's expecting parameter. So we need to go back to our component, and here we need to pass that query, and that query is currently kept in search query. So we can directly pass search query in here, and error is gone. Now, if I try Islamabad and search, I should be getting the required result. Great. What about the London? Yeah, you can see the results are bit changed. which means, and if you see the console, it's visible that query is getting changed with the different input. Great. Now let's jump back to our method here inside the service. Let's try to bit more optimize this as well. Before any further changes, we should not be passing any in with that get API call, because we should be typecasting our response, and that prevent us with a lots of errors that can happen. So for that case, I will be creating an interface right here inside the app. I will be creating a folder with models, and inside model I can create weather model.ts, and here we need to export interface and weather model. And for now, if we see the response from the API, the weather consists of ID, main, description, and the icon. Only ID is of number and everything else is of string type. So we can use the same properties here. ID, we are expecting that one to be a number. Then main should be string, description should be string, and the last one was icon. Although we are currently only using main and description, but we will be using at least that icon at some point in that tutorial series, so we can use it as string. And let's go back to our service here and start importing that weather model. So how we can use that weather model, we need to, again, after that URL call, we need to pipe that one. Whatever response is coming, let's use that response to map it in a way that we should convert that response. And because that response has a weather object which is an array, we can see that here in the response, the results dot weather array, and we are picking its first item. So we can even remove that dependency from here, and we can just use that whatever response we are getting, go for its weather object. And because that is an array, so let's just pick the first element of that array as weather model, and we are typecasting that as well here. So that was first thing. All right, and here the model as well. Okay, we have just updated that one, and we have typecast that response. Now let's go back here, and weather does not exist on type weather model. Okay, let me refresh this and type now. Okay, we are getting the required response, which is good. Okay, that was the second thing, we typecast that response. And now the third thing is to ensure the environments, and we are picking those any kind of keys from those environment. For that one, we need to stop the application, and we need to generate those environment files. One more difference between the previous version and the Angular 17 is we don't have environments folder in that default template. You can see that I have created that one previously, but if you create a new Angular application, it will not have any environment folder. So to create environment files, we need to use a command which is ng space g for generate space environments. And as soon as we hit enter, it will take some time and will generate two files. One will be environment.ts, which will be our production one, and one will be the environment.development.ts, which is our development one. And to get to know about these details, go to the angular.json file, and right here you can see file replacements are added and configurations are added with those environments files. So the configuration was also been added as part of this command, which is ng generate environments. We will see in detail how we can create custom environments in the Angular application, because our project can have multiple environments, development, quality, stable, integration, or anything we can name it. And how to add the custom environments, we can cover that one in a separate video. All right, so we have now our environments, and inside our environments we are currently have empty object, and let's try to add the variable and its key. So I already have copied the key, and for the variable point of view, I can name it open weather key, and we can use that one here. And let me copy, because both of our environments now for now can have a same variable, so we can place it here as well. Okay, the environment should be synced, which means a variable if added in one environment, we should add into another one as well. The value could be different, but for the sync perspective, we should add the variables on in all those environment files. Other than that, we will get an error. Okay, now just let's jump back to our weather service, and here we need to include that weather as well. Now we can use import environment. We can use it like this, and here now that key should be coming from that environment file, and that's why I use these character for string interpolation. And we can use $sign and environment dot open weather key. Now this service is totally dynamic. There is no hard-coded configuration or value inside that service, and we'll be picking that key now from that environment file. And let's go back to our console and run this application once again. So it's building the application. Every time we use command ng set, it will take few seconds. And one more change, we need to remove that weather call of that weather object, the first item of that array. We need to remove that one as well now, because the result will only now contain the weather model directly, and we can just consume that as well. So let me save this one, go back. Now it's working fine, and we can just refresh it. Okay, let's use Karachi, the city in Pakistan. Clouds, overall it's overcast clouds. Islamabad, broken clouds. And for the search perspective, we can see the separate calls are being made with different queries. So that was the main agenda of today's video. Let me conclude what we have done so far. Today we incorporated search within API endpoint, which is working fine. We have enabled the environments file to kept over keys variables, which will be changing from environment to environment in those environment files. And we also updated the get method inside our service to return us a typed response instead of any. And we have created a separate model to pull the required fields from that weather API endpoint, which is weather model. So we have done all these three different changes. I will push that change to the repo and will share the GitHub link in the description as well. In case of any questions or queries, do ask me in the comments. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, do subscribe to get the latest videos right away. And see you in the next one.